The phone camera wobbled slightly as Madison Chin whispered into it, her perfectly manicured finger pressed against her glossy lips in a shushing gesture. "Watch me absolutely destroy this boomer, Judge. Guys, this is going to be the best content ever." She sat in Judge Judy's actual courtroom, live streaming to her 847,000 TikTok followers, completely unaware that she was documenting the beginning of her own social media downfall. What happened next wouldn't just end her court case, it would obliterate her influencer empire, turn loyal followers into harsh critics, and transform her from internet celebrity into the most hated person on social media. But here's what makes this story insane. Madison didn't just lose her case and walk away embarrassed. What Judge Judy did was so legally devastating, so perfectly calculated, that it permanently destroyed Madison's TikTok account, cost her over $300,000 in annual income, and resulted in a courtroom ban that became one of the most watched legal moments in internet history. Before we dive into how this clout-chasing influencer got annihilated by America's toughest judge, smash that like button if you're ready to see what happens when internet fame collides with real-world consequences. Hit subscribe. What Judge Judy uncovered in Madison's TikTok history will absolutely shock you. Drop a comment saying, "Justice served," if you think influencers should face the same rules as everyone else. You've never seen a takedown this brutal, this satisfying, or this permanent. Madison Chin had built her entire career on a simple but toxic formula. Find people having bad days, provoke them until they react, film their breakdown, and post it for millions of views. At 28, she had perfected the art of turning human suffering into viral content. Her TikTok bio read, "Professional Karen Hunter," and her content strategy was as calculated as it was cruel. She would walk into restaurants, retail stores, and service businesses with her phone ready and her entitlement dialed to maximum. Then she'd create problems, complicated orders with impossible modifications, complaints about wait times that were completely reasonable, aggressive confrontations over minor issues that normal people would ignore. When the exhausted service worker finally showed frustration, Madison would capture it all on camera, edit it to make herself look like the victim, and post it with mocking captions and laughing emojis. Her followers ate it up. Every video of a crying cashier or frustrated manager racked up millions of views. Comments flooded in calling the workers Karens. Even though Madison caused the chaos, she convinced nearly 1 million people that filming service workers without consent and provoking them for content was not only acceptable but entertaining and profitable. Each viral video generated $15,000, $30,000 in ad revenue. Brand sponsorships paid $50,000 or more. TikTok's creator fund sent her monthly checks. Madison had turned Karen hunting into a 6-figure business, and she was proud of it. She posted her earnings, flaunted designer purchases, and bragged about mastering the algorithm. But what Madison called content creation, her victims called harassment. And there were a lot of victims. The video that finally landed Madison in Judge Judy's courtroom was her most viewed and cruelest. Jessica Morales, a 34-year-old restaurant manager working double shifts to support her 2 children after a tough divorce, was already exhausted when Madison walked in with 3 friends, all holding phones like weapons. Madison placed an intentionally complicated order, then immediately complained about the wait. When Jessica politely explained that custom orders took extra time, Madison exploded, not out of real anger but for contempt. For 20 minutes, Madison berated Jessica in front of the entire restaurant. She called her incompetent, demanded to speak to corporate, threatened to have her fired, and made sure every second was captured on camera from multiple angles. Jessica tried to stay professional, but the stress of the confrontation, combined with months of exhaustion, triggered a panic attack. She couldn't breathe. Her hands were shaking. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled to compose herself in front of staff and customers. A normal person would have stopped. A decent person would have apologized. Madison zoomed in closer and kept filming. She posted the video that same night with the caption, "When Karens can't handle being called out," followed by 3 crying, laughing emojis. The video exploded, 4.2 million views, 890,000 likes, and thousands of comments mocking Jessica, calling her weak, saying she deserved to be fired, and she was. The restaurant's corporate office, terrified of the bad publicity, and the mob of Madison's followers threatening to leave negative reviews, terminated Jessica's employment 3 days later. Jessica had never imagined that going to work could result in her life being destroyed by a stranger with a smartphone. After the video went viral, everything fell apart with devastating speed. She lost her job, which meant she couldn't make rent. Her children saw their mother being mocked by millions online, with strangers leaving cruel comments calling her pathetic and saying she deserved everything that happened. Jessica fell into a deep depression, unable to sleep, unable to stop refreshing the video to watch the view count climb. Every view felt like another person witnessing her worst moment. Every comment felt like another knife in her back. She applied to dozens of jobs, but potential employers searched her name and found the video. Nobody wanted to hire the woman who had a panic attack on camera. Madison had turned Jessica's breakdown into entertainment, and Jessica had become unemployable because of it. The financial devastation was immediate and brutal. Without income, Jessica burned through her savings in weeks. She had to ask family for help with basic expenses. Her car was repossessed. She couldn't afford therapy, even though she desperately needed it. Meanwhile, Madison was posting videos about her new designer handbag purchased with the money she had made from Jessica's suffering. The cruelty wasn't accidental. It was Madison's entire business model. And Jessica wasn't her first victim. She wasn't even close. Madison had been perfecting her harassment techniques for over 2 years, leaving a trail of destroyed lives behind her perfectly curated Instagram aesthetic. When investigators later went through Madison's content history, they found a pattern as disturbing as it was deliberate. There was the grocery store cashier, a 19-year-old college student working her way through school, whom Madison filmed crying after spending 15 minutes berating her over a coupon dispute. That video got 2.1 million views. The comment section quickly turned into a harassment campaign, with Madison's followers finding the girl's social media and flooding it with abuse until she deleted everything. There was the coffee shop barista, a 23-year-old aspiring artist who made the mistake of getting Madison's order slightly wrong. Madison didn't just film the interaction. She tagged the coffee shop's location and encouraged her followers to leave 1-star reviews. That video got 3.7 million views, and the coffee shop lost so much business they had to lay off staff. Then there was the Uber driver, a 62-year-old immigrant trying to earn extra money for his medical bills. Madison intentionally provoked an argument about the route he was taking, then filmed him getting frustrated when she refused to stop arguing. She posted it with the implication that he was dangerous. That video got 1.9 million views, and the driver was deactivated from the platform, losing his primary source of income. Each video followed the same formula. Madison would identify someone vulnerable, a minimum wage worker, someone who couldn't afford lawyers or PR teams, someone with no power to fight back. Then she would create a confrontation specifically designed to provoke an emotional reaction. She would film their distress from the most unflattering angles possible, edit the footage to remove context that showed her instigating the conflict, and post it with captions that painted herself as the victim and her target as an unreasonable Karen. Her followers, many young people unaware of the real-world consequences of viral harassment, would dogpile on the victim. They would find their social media accounts, leave cruel comments, and contact their employers demanding they be fired. Madison had weaponized her platform, turning 847,000 followers into an army of harassment she could deploy with a single post. The money was substantial and addictive. Madison wasn't creating content because she believed in accountability or exposing bad behavior. She was creating content because it was profitable. Each viral video meant tens of thousands of dollars. Brand deals with fashion and lifestyle companies brought in monthly payments that exceeded what most people earned in a year. She had turned cruelty into a career, and she was good at it. Her apartment was filled with PR packages from companies desperate to be associated with her engagement numbers. Her closet overflowed with designer clothes purchased with harassment money. Her Instagram stories showcased a life of luxury funded entirely by the suffering of working-class people who had the misfortune of crossing her path. But Madison had made a critical miscalculation. She assumed her follower count made her untouchable. She convinced herself that because her content was popular, it must be acceptable, interpreting the lack of consequences as permission to escalate. When Jessica Morales decided to sue her for intentional infliction of emotional distress, loss of income, violation of privacy rights, And defamation, Madison didn't take it seriously. To her, it was just content. Another opportunity to film herself as the victim of people trying to cancel her for no reason. She posted about the lawsuit on TikTok with the caption, "Going to court tomorrow to school a boomer judge on internet culture. This is going to be epic content," followed by 3 fire emojis. That video got 2.3 million views and thousands of comments from her followers promising to support her and ratio anyone who disagreed. Madison Chin arrived at the courthouse like she was attending a red carpet premiere rather than facing a lawsuit for destroying someone's life. She had spent 2 hours that morning perfecting her appearance for what she called her court debut. Her blonde highlights were freshly done at an expensive salon, her makeup flawless, contoured for the camera. She wore a designer outfit that balanced courtroom appropriateness with Instagram-worthy style, professional enough for the judge, stylish enough to go viral. Her leather portfolio bag, which should have contained legal documents and notes, instead held a ring light, a backup phone for recording, and a portable charger to make sure she didn't miss a single moment of content. She wasn't alone. 3 friends accompanied her, all wearing matching Team Maddie t-shirts like this was a sporting event rather than a legal proceeding. They positioned themselves in the gallery, phones ready to capture every moment. Madison had even arranged for what she called a documentary crew, really just a friend with a nice camera who would film in exchange for exposure on her platform. She treated the entire lawsuit as a content opportunity, another chapter in her narrative of being unfairly targeted by people who didn't understand internet culture. As she walked up the courthouse steps, she stopped every few feet to take selfies, posing with the building in the background and posting them to her Instagram story with captions like, "Serving looks in court today. Judge Judy has no idea what's about to hit her." Inside the courthouse, Madison's behavior didn't improve. She loudly FaceTimed someone in the hallway, her voice echoing off the marble walls as she described how boring and outdated everything looked. When a court officer politely asked her to lower her voice, she rolled her eyes dramatically and said, "This is literally a public building. I can talk as loud as I want." She pulled out her phone every 30 seconds to check notifications, respond to comments, and film quick updates for her followers. When she entered the courtroom, she was actively live streaming to a private Instagram account, whispering commentary to her followers about how crazy it was that she even had to be there, just making content. A bailiff noticed and approached her, asking her to turn off her phone. Madison's response was immediate and entitled, "It's called freedom of the press. Look it up." She made a show of putting the phone in her bag. But she didn't turn it off. She simply positioned it so the camera continued recording, streaming everything from inside her designer purse. What Madison didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have anticipated, was that Judge Judy had been preparing for this case with the thoroughness of a military operation. For 2 weeks, her research team had been downloading and archiving every single video Madison had ever posted. They found 47 separate videos showing Madison harassing service workers and documented a clear pattern of deliberately provoking confrontations. They tracked down and interviewed 15 of Madison's previous victims, people whose lives had been damaged or destroyed by her content. They subpoenaed Madison's financial records from TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, obtaining exact figures showing how much money she had made from each harassment video. They analyzed her direct messages and found conversations where Madison explicitly discussed targeting specific people for content, including messages to friends where she planned to make Jessica cry for a viral video. Most importantly, Judge Judy's team had contacted TikTok's legal department directly. They presented evidence of systematic harassment and violations of community guidelines, showing how Madison's content encouraged coordinated harassment campaigns against private individuals. They proved that Madison wasn't just creating controversial content. She was actively violating the platform's terms of service. TikTok's lawyers were paying close attention, not because they cared about justice, but because they feared legal liability. If Madison's harassment continued, the platform could face lawsuits from victims. TikTok had been looking for a test case to show they took harassment seriously, and Madison Chin had just volunteered herself. Judge Judy knew Madison's entire strategy before she even walked through the door. She had watched Madison's video announcing her plan to school a boomer judge, read the supportive comments from her followers, and seen Madison's direct messages describing the lawsuit as free publicity, predicting it would gain her followers. Judge Judy had built her career on reading people, and she could see exactly what Madison was: a narcissist who believed her follower count made her immune to consequences, a bully who had found a profitable way to torment vulnerable people, a predator who had weaponized social media to destroy lives for entertainment and profit. And Judge Judy was about to teach her a lesson that no number of followers could protect her from. The moment Judge Judy entered the courtroom, the atmosphere shifted like air pressure dropping before a storm. Everyone stood as protocol demanded. Everyone stood except Madison, who was still fiddling with her phone under the table until her lawyer frantically nudged her to rise. Judge Judy took her seat with the calm, measured movements of someone who had presided over 20,000 cases and knew exactly how this one was going to end. She reviewed her notes for a moment, letting the silence build, then looked up with those sharp, penetrating eyes that had made criminals and liars squirm for decades. The opening statements began with Jessica's lawyer presenting the case clearly and methodically. He showed the video of Madison harassing Jessica, documented the panic attack, and presented evidence of Jessica's job loss and the financial devastation that followed. He displayed the cruel comments from Madison's followers and the coordinated harassment campaign that had made Jessica's life unbearable. Throughout the presentation, Madison sat at the defendant's table with visible contempt. She rolled her eyes when Jessica's lawyer described the emotional trauma. She sighed loudly at the mention of the panic attack. She even smiled slightly when her viral video was played in court, as if proud of her work. When it was Madison's turn to defend herself, she stood with the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences in her life. Your Honor, with all due respect, this is literally just Gen Z humor. Nobody actually got hurt. It's called content creation. Maybe if Jessica wasn't such a... She paused, clearly about to insult Jessica before remembering where she was. Maybe if she could handle customer feedback, none of this would have happened. Judge Judy's voice cut through the courtroom like a blade. Sit down, Miss Chen. Madison sat, but the smirk never left her face. She thought she was winning. She thought her confident attitude was impressing the judge. She had no idea she was digging her own grave with every eye roll and dismissive gesture. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly, her eyes locked on Madison with uncomfortable intensity. Ms. Chen, are you currently recording these proceedings? Madison responded too quickly, too defensively. No, Your Honor, I'm not recording anything. Judge Judy didn't break eye contact. Bailiff, please check Ms. Chen's devices. Madison's face flashed with panic for a brief second before she recovered her composure. This is literally a violation of my rights. You can't just search my stuff without permission.
This is America.
Judge Judy's response was ice cold. This is my courtroom and you will follow my rules. Bailiff, proceed. The bailiff collected Madison's designer bag and began removing its contents. The primary phone, actively streaming to 847 people on a private Instagram Live. The backup phone hidden in a side pocket recording video for what Madison called her documentary. The ring light carefully wrapped in a silk scarf. Extra batteries and chargers. It was an entire mobile content creation studio disguised as courtroom materials. The revelation sent shocked murmurs through the gallery. Even Madison's friends, wearing their Team Maddie shirts, looked uncomfortable, suddenly realizing that maybe their influencer friend had gone too far this time. Judge Judy held up the streaming phone, the screen showing the live feed and hundreds of comments from Madison's followers. Miss Chen, you are in contempt of court. All devices are confiscated immediately, and you are being fined $1,000 for attempting to illegally broadcast these proceedings. Madison shot out of her chair as if electrified. What? That's insane. You can't do that. This is censorship. My followers have a right to know what's happening. This is literally going to get posted everywhere. You can't silence me. The outburst was spectacular and self-destructive. Judge Judy waited patiently, as someone who had seen this exact performance countless times before. Ms. Chen, you have just added another $500 to your contempt fine. Sit down and be quiet, or I will have you removed from this courtroom and rule in favor of the plaintiff by default. Madison sat down, but couldn't stop herself. Under her breath, just loud enough for the courtroom microphones to pick up, she muttered, "Okay, Boomer." The courtroom went dead silent. Even the stenographer stopped typing for a moment. Madison's own lawyer buried his face in his hands. Her friends in the gallery suddenly became very interested in their shoes. Everyone knew Madison had just crossed a line that nobody crosses with Judge Judy. The judge's expression didn't change, but her eyes went from stern to absolutely lethal. "Excuse me, Miss Chin, did you just call me a boomer in my courtroom?" Madison, apparently incapable of reading the room or recognizing danger, doubled down. "I mean, no offense, Your Honor, but you're like 80 years old. You don't understand how the internet works. This is literally my job. You're trying to cancel me for making content, which is honestly super problematic and kind of ageist if you think about it." She turned to look at her friends in the gallery, expecting support, expecting them to be filming her standing up to outdated authority. Instead, she saw three people who desperately wished they were anywhere else. Judge Judy let the silence stretch, letting Madison's words hang in the air like evidence of her own stupidity. Then, with deliberate calm, Judge Judy opened a thick folder that had been sitting on her bench. "Miss Chen, you claimed this is your job. Let's discuss your business model in detail, shall we?" What Judge Judy pulled from that folder wasn't just evidence. It was a complete autopsy of Madison Chen's entire career. Every cruel video, every harassment campaign, every dollar she had earned from other people's suffering, all documented with the precision of a prosecutor building a murder case. She began spreading printed spreadsheets across her bench, each representing a different aspect of Madison's systematic harassment operation. "Ms. Chen, you've described your content creation as harmless entertainment and generational humor. Let me show you what I've discovered about your actual business practices." Judge Judy held up the first document, her voice taking on that tone of controlled fury that had made her legendary. "This is a complete archive of every video you've posted featuring service workers over the past 2 years. 47 videos total. In every single one, you deliberately provoked a confrontation, filmed someone's distress without their consent, and profited from their humiliation." Madison tried to interrupt. "Your Honor, those are public spaces. I have every right to film. I'm not doing anything illegal. It's called the First Amendment." Judge Judy didn't acknowledge the interruption. She simply held up another document. "This is your earnings report subpoenaed directly from TikTok's financial department. Video 1, showing a teenage cashier crying after you berated her for 10 minutes over a price dispute, earned you $18,000 in ad revenue. Video 2, showing an elderly Walmart greeter asking you to stop filming, earned you $22,000. Video 3, the one featuring Jessica Morales having a panic attack, earned you $31,000. Should I continue? Or are you starting to understand what you actually do for a living?" Madison's face went pale. "Those records are supposed to be private. How did you even get those?" "That's my personal financial information." Judge Judy's smile was razor sharp. "Discovery, Ms. Chen. When you file a lawsuit or get sued, the court has the power to subpoena relevant financial records. Perhaps you should have consulted with an actual attorney instead of getting your legal advice from TikTok comment sections." But Judge Judy wasn't finished. Not even close. She pulled out another set of documents, these even more damaging. What made Madison's situation exponentially worse was what Judge Judy revealed next. "These are screenshots from your private messages, also obtained through legal discovery. Let me read a few of them for the court." Message to her friend Kayla, dated February 10th. "Going to this restaurant tonight. Gonna make the manager cry for content, lol. The crying emoji really adds a nice touch, don't you think?" Madison's hands were shaking now, gripping the edge of the defendant's table. Judge Judy continued. Message to someone named Tyler, dated March 3rd. "Found the perfect Karen target at Starbucks. She looks like she's having a bad day already. Time to make it worse and get that viral video." "Very eloquent, Ms. Chen," Judge Judy said coldly. The courtroom was absolutely silent except for her voice, cold and precise as a scalpel. "And my personal favorite, a message to your group chat dated the day after Jessica Morales lost her job. Just made $30K from that panic attack video. Best ROI ever. Who says bullying doesn't pay?" Madison was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of anger and humiliation. Tears of someone finally facing consequences and unable to manipulate her way out. "That's out of context," she sobbed. "You don't understand. I was joking with my friends. Everyone talks like that in private." Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice dropping to that dangerous quiet tone. Miss Chen, you weren't joking. You were planning. You were strategizing. You built an entire career on deliberately targeting vulnerable people, provoking them until they broke, then monetizing their suffering. That's not content creation. That's systematic harassment for profit. And it ends today. But Judge Judy had saved her most devastating revelation for last. She picked up a final document, this one with the TikTok logo visible on the letterhead. I've been in communication with TikTok's legal department throughout this case. They've been very interested in your business practices, particularly how you've been violating their terms of service on a systematic basis. Harassment and bullying, 47 documented violations, filming and posting content featuring individuals without consent in states where consent is legally required, coordinating harassment campaigns in your comment sections against your targets, and monetizing content that explicitly violates community guidelines. Madison's voice was a broken whisper. What does that mean? Judge Judy's response was delivered with the satisfaction of someone executing a perfect strategic plan. It means your account is currently under review for permanent termination. TikTok has been waiting for the outcome of this case to make their final decision. And based on the evidence presented here today, I think we both know what that decision will be. The impact of those words hit Madison like a physical blow. Her entire body seemed to collapse inward. No. That's my income. That's my career. You can't do this. 847,000 followers, years of work. You're destroying my life over some videos. Judge Judy's response was swift and merciless. No, Ms. Chen. You destroyed Jessica Morales' life. You destroyed the lives of at least 15 other people that we know of. You built a career on cruelty and called it content. I'm simply ensuring that you face consequences for your actions. Then Judge Judy delivered her verdict, comprehensive and devastating. Ms. Chen, I find in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. You are ordered to pay Jessica Morales $75,000 in damages for intentional infliction of emotional distress, loss of income, and violation of privacy rights. You are ordered to delete all videos featuring individuals who did not provide explicit written consent to be filmed and posted. You are ordered to post a court-approved public apology that will remain pinned to any social media account you operate for a minimum of 1 year. You are permanently banned from filming in any commercial establishment without written permission from the property owner. Violation of any of these terms will result in an additional $50,000 penalty and possible jail time for contempt. Madison was sobbing uncontrollably now, her carefully applied makeup running down her face in dark streaks. This is insane. I'm going to appeal. My followers will support me. They'll help me fight this. You can't cancel me. Judge Judy picked up her gavel, ready to end the circus once and for all. Ms. Chen, your followers can't help you now. They can't pay your fines. They can't restore your account. They can't undo the damage you've caused. You gambled your entire career on the assumption that popularity equals immunity. You were wrong. Case dismissed. The gavel came down with the finality of a coffin closing. The aftermath was swift and absolutely brutal. Within 3 hours of the verdict, TikTok permanently banned Madison's account. 847,000 followers gone. Years of content deleted. Her primary source of income eliminated. The reason given: severe and repeated violations of community guidelines related to harassment, bullying, and coordinated harm. Instagram followed within 6 hours. YouTube demonetized her channel by the end of the day. Twitter suspended her account for terms of service violations. Her sponsors, the fashion brands and lifestyle companies that had paid her thousands per post, dropped her immediately, with public statements condemning harassment and bullying. FabFitFun tweeted, "We do not support harassment and have terminated our relationship with this creator." HelloFresh posted, "This behavior is unacceptable and does not align with our values." Fashion Nova simply deleted every post featuring her, as if she had never existed. But the internet's response was perhaps the most devastating part of Madison's downfall. Her former followers turned on her with the same mob mentality they had once directed at her victims. The hashtags Maddie is over party and Justice for Jessica trended worldwide. Her video calling Judge Judy a boomer was viewed 50 million times, not as a triumph, but as evidence of her entitlement and stupidity. Commentary channels made hour-long videos dissecting her downfall. True crime podcasts covered her case as an example of social media's dark side. She became a cautionary tale, a meme, a symbol of everything wrong with influencer culture. 6 months later, Madison Chen's life looked nothing like the glamorous existence she had built on harassment and cruelty. She tried to return to social media under different names, but was identified and banned within 24 hours every single time. She attempted to start a podcast called My Side of the Story, but it averaged just 47 downloads per episode, mostly from people curious to see how delusional she remained. She was forced to get what she had always called a real job, ironically working retail, the very industry she had terrorized for content. Jessica Morales used the $75,000 to pay off her debts, get therapy, and eventually found a new job with a company that supported her through the aftermath. She became an advocate for service worker protection laws, and her case inspired legislation in 3 states, requiring consent for filming service, workers, and creating penalties for harassment disguised as content creation. Judge Judy's handling of the case became legendary, studied in law schools as an example of how courts can address modern forms of harassment. The case proved that follower counts mean nothing in the face of real consequences, that platforms will protect themselves over creators when legal pressure mounts, and that no amount of internet fame makes you untouchable when you've built your career on cruelty. Madison Chen learned the hardest possible lesson. In Judge Judy's courtroom and in life, accountability always catches up with you, and your followers can't save you from the consequences of your actions. If this story proves that actions have consequences no matter how many followers you have, hit the like button. Subscribe if you believe influencers should be held accountable for the real-world harm they cause. Comment below and tell me, do you think social media has made people too comfortable with cruelty? Share this with anyone who needs a reminder that clout isn't a shield against justice. Hit that notification bell because we're covering more cases where internet fame meets real-world accountability. Remember, your follower count means absolutely nothing in Judge Judy's courtroom, and that's exactly how it should be. The internet might forget, but the law never does. Consequences don't care about your engagement rate.